Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Human Side of Marketing. My name is Chris Angel, your co-host, here with your host, Curt Stockwell from Well Dressed Walrus. Curt.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, man. Episode 4. I'm excited to talk about our topic today is clarity.
Yes, clarity in your messaging, specifically on your website.
Yeah. I think you kind of laid out 4 topics kind of for us to move through in this episode, yes?
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to talk about story. We're going to talk about bowling balls and treadmills.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about being clever, and we're going to talk about calls to action.
All right. I love it. Let's dive right in, man. So let's talk about the first one.
Yes. Story. In marketing for probably the last decade and a half, the concept of story comes up a lot, right? We've all heard, tell your story. What's your story? People need to hear your story. The reality is that is half true.
Yeah.
Your story needs to be how your product or your service fits into your customer's story, not your story.
Yeah, that's good.
And what I mean by that is I was in Nashville recently and was there for some training. I'm now a certified story brand guide.
Nice.
If you want to check out the book Story Brand by Donald Miller, it's called Building a Story Brand. Go check that out.
Yeah.
And so the concept is that the human nature, the human brain relates well to story. Mm-hmm. For thousands and thousands and thousands of years, humans have been listening to and telling stories before the written word. The way that generations passed traditions and the messaging from generation to generation was through story before the written word. So our human brains understand story. If you can clarify your message through story, you can have a clear message for your clients, which that checks the box. You can, more importantly, clarify your message so you'll sell more products. Most of the time, people don't buy products because it's, obviously, if it's not the right customer, you're not going to sell the product. But if it's the right customer, it's the right product, and they don't buy, it's because it's unclear.
Yeah. I always like to come back to the 3 things that you and Andy have created inside of the value of a website. Like, should have utility, should create relationship, strengthen relationship, and there should be ROI. And I think when you have a website that sort of tells a story, you're positioning yourself for those 3 things to happen. And if you don't, and it's confusing, then those 3 things are it's a miracle to have those 3 things happen.
Right. So you need to start with story, and kind of let me unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
Every great story has a hero. Every great story has a guide and an enemy that the guide and the hero both recognize. And in the end, the guide helps the hero recognize his abilities and then succeeds. So, for example, Luke Skywalker has Yoda, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, depending on what episode you're watching, and defeats Darth Vader. Right. So if you can bring a customer into an experience where they recognize that you are solving their problems. Mm-hmm. So let's think about it this way. Let's say I'm a lawn care company, okay? Mm-hmm. And I have services that obviously make your lawn look great.
Yeah.
Your customer or your hero is somebody who needs your services. Now, you need to think through what's their needs, what's their external, empathetic, and philosophical need. Okay, I've got a lawn. My external need is my lawn looks bad.
Yep.
My emotional need is my lawn looks bad, and that makes me kind of feel like I'm letting my family down. I'm letting the neighborhood down. And the philosophical need is I need somebody who can help me fix this, right? So if you come in to that messaging as a lawn care company and say, we've been around since 1983. My uncle started this company, and I took over the company in 1997, and we've won multiple awards, and here's our services. Bum, 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 bum. As a customer who has a need, the external, emotional, and philosophical need, I don't really understand how you're different than anybody else.
Yeah.
Your messaging can introduce them into a story that has them as the hero. You could unpack that as, are you the type of person that has a lawn that you're embarrassed of?
Right.
Maybe your lawn is the worst in the neighborhood and you want to be the envy of your neighbors. Right. If you're the type of person, we've got a solution for you. The way that you can connect with us is 1, 2, 3. Make your calls to action nice and clear, and we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're going to be this type of person who feels this way. Give us a call. We'd love to help you out.
Yep.
You can put all the other stuff about started in 1983 from your uncle, took it over in 1997, all the awards that you won. Once you established yourself as the authority that they recognize, then go into all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Don't bring a user into your story. Introduce your services into their narrative or their story.
I think that, and if you want to go here, I think it's a good transition into the second thing that we're talking about with bowling balls, because like what you're talking about is, and this is what story makes so well. I don't want to get away. So is this a good time to transition?
Yes,
into
yeah,
number
let's do it.
Okay.
So if you think about, okay, so now you're tracking with me going, okay, I've got these services that solve this problem, and our services are kind of unique, and to really understand the service, you need to experience the service. If that is your thought about your services, then it's way too complex. You need to kind of dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Or let's say you've got, you are a lawn care company, but you really do about 10 different things.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of human nature to want to tell everybody, or tell a new customer or a potential customer, these are all the 10 things we do.
Yeah.
And talk about like grass blades and rhizomes and soil content, and
Wow.
and talk about watering schedules and xeriscape. And okay, so as I'm telling you that, right, you're kind of like getting a little fidgety, like I don't really understand where you're going there. Okay.
Like you were dropping some knowledge bombs just now, like some fancy. You have a background in landscape architecture.
I do, yeah, right. So it's so easy to go there when you're trying to get somebody to understand your message or your marketing. Okay, so think of it this way: your message or your services are bowling balls. Okay. If I were to hand you, Chris, one bowling ball, and say, hold on to this bowling ball and let me tell you about this service. You could hold on to it. 8-pound bowling ball, no problem.
Yep.
I'm going to hand you 2 bowling balls. Let me tell you about the second service that we provide. Here's a second bowling ball. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hand you a 3rd bowling ball. By this time, you're like, okay, this is a little uncomfortable, but I'm still with you. I'm still listening. It's not too bad. Let me hand you a 4th bowling ball. Yeah. Okay, now it's getting a little awkward, and my brain is telling me these bowling balls are heavy, and I'm kind of not really listening to you anymore because I'm thinking about how heavy and awkward these bowling balls are. Let me hand you a 5th bowling ball, 6th bowling ball, 7th bowling ball. You're going to hold them all.
Game over. You're
dropping them.
Yep.
So when you're bringing your message to your customer and you're trying to unpack your services, if you think of them as bowling balls, it puts a different perspective on what you're expecting your customer to understand and do. Hold these bowling balls while I talk to you.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to stop listening to you, and they're going to think, I'm really uncomfortable and my brain hurts because you're making me think too much.
Yep. You said this the other day when you were at our meeting together, and I read this in the Story Brand book too, but like the thing about calories, touch on the thing about calories, right?
Yeah. So, and let me kind of tie a bow on the bowling ball thing.
Yeah.
Get to your point, do it in about 3 or 4 bowling balls.
Yeah.
And move on. You got to think about your first connection with your customer. This is a lot of times the homepage of your website, or your initial sales letter, or your initial trifold brochure or rack card. You got to think of that as a first date, right?
Right.
Or an opportunity for somebody just to kind of understand the basics of what you do. Drop a little knowledge and walk away. Okay.
Yeah.
And that bowling ball concept is a nice way to kind of think about it. Calories. Now you mentioned calories. Yeah, that's another thing too. Go ahead.
I was thinking about it on the bowling ball thing, because you can only carry so many bowling balls until you start to burn a lot of calories, right? Like and the more bowling balls you give me, the more my brain starts to check out because I'm burning calories.
Right. So the human brain burns calories as it thinks and tries to process things. Obviously, we've all been in meetings or in brainstorming sessions or a long conversation with our spouse where you leave and you're like, ugh, my brain feels tired. Yes, your brain is tired because your brain has been burning calories. Mm-hmm. Now we're getting down to kind of the treadmill idea. Think of your customer's brain running on a treadmill.
Yep.
When you are trying to unpack all these ideas and concepts, you're asking them to burn calories, trying to understand what the heck you're talking about. Yep. Okay. So when I have a lawn that needs to look better so I can be the envy of my neighbors, and I'm talking about rhizomes and xeriscape and watering schedules and the length of grass blades and sharpening your mower blade. I mean, all of those things you're going, wow, I don't really understand what you're talking about. And physiologically, my brain is burning calories. And here's the thing, at our core, our human nature is to survive and thrive.
Yep.
When doomsday happens and it all hits the fan, the thing that we want to do is survive by conserving calories. Ultimately, your body's saying, conserve as many calories as you can. So your natural reaction to something that's confusing, if your brain's burning too many calories, is to want to walk away and want to shut down. So when you're doing that with your customer, they're shutting down.
Yeah.
And you're asking them to burn calories that they want to just kind of naturally conserve.
That's a challenge when a website has so much they're trying to convey in the website. Or if you tell like random details, like how many awards you won and when the company started, you're giving me stuff that that isn't important to me. And so my brain starts to shut down.
Right.
And I'm not interested anymore.
Right. And it's not interesting to you because, one, you're not initially answering my external problem.
Right.
And if I don't see that if you've not answered my external problem, you're not getting to my emotional need.
Right.
And philosophically, ultimately my values line up with yours, mission statements, stuff about family, stuff about being around for years and years and years. Those are all great values. Yeah. But if you can't get to the philosophical need of your customer because you skip the first two things, which are the emotional and internal need, then you're blowing right past the things that are most important.
Right.
All of those things are great, but put them farther down on your homepage. In fact, skip it from your homepage. Put it on
your about page. Yeah.
Put it on the about us section.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of marketers these days are saying your website should be about 200. Your homepage of your website should probably be about 200 words. So that means that three paragraph thing about your company needs to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. I want to talk about the clever thing, because I think sometimes then people will hear this and be like, okay, so what you're saying is I have to like reduce the amount of words. So let me try to be really cute with the words I have.
Yeah.
And we get all clever with it. Right. And this is where you're talking about being clever.
Right. Right. So, and I am definitely guilty of being clever. The name of our company is Well Dressed Walrus, obviously. So, but one thing that we always try to not do is let Well Dressed Walrus kind of just sit by itself. We build beautiful, usable websites. Yep. And so that's really what we say in most cases. The Well Dressed Walrus thing is kind of just the name. But, there's plenty of case studies now where you can be clever in the branding of your name, like Google, Skype, like what are these? We don't even know what these things are. But when you get into your messaging, which is really what we're talking about in your website, you don't want to get too cute with what you're trying to communicate, because then our brains shut down because we're burning calories trying to figure out what you do. Right, exactly. So let me give you an example. There's a website that I recently saw for a company, and their tagline was, "We make mouse calls."
Right.
What is that company? What's your guess?
Exterminator.
No, it's an IT company.
What? Oh, okay.
Mouse, your computer mouse, right? How cute and clever is that tagline? It's very clever.
Right.
But you can't lead with it.
Right.
You can be clever, but be clever after you've unpacked the concept of, hey, I understand what you do.
Right.
I understand that you recognize my emotional need and my internal need, or my external need, my internal need, and my philosophical need.
Right.
And then get clever later. I'm not saying that clever is bad, but don't lead with clever.
Yeah.
And sometimes companies get so excited about mouse calls. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Let's put that everywhere. But you're sacrificing clarity for being clever.
Yeah, I love that. Don't sacrifice clarity for being clever. That's so good. I love that. Can we bring it home with like you have a quick tip, and I love this tip. I think this is super good for actually taking your website and having people take action in your sales funnel. So hit me with that quick tip.
A call to action button. A call to action button should be on your homepage about 4, 5, 6, 7 times, as many times as it needs to be there. We always like to say multiple ways to get to the same place on a website.
Yeah.
There's users read things in different ways, but the one thing that you can't miss is a great call to action.
Yeah.
On the homepage of your website, right at the top in the header, make sure that that call to action button's really clear. Schedule a consultation today.
Right.
Call us for a free, no obligation quote.
Right. Buy now.
Buy now. Right.
Register here. Yeah.
Register here. What's your buy now? What's your next step that you're asking somebody to take? And put it multiple places on your website. In the header area, one great way to do that is make that button a color that stands out. And in the menu, up above in the upper right corner, you've got your about, services, blog, contact us. Stick that button up there too. That button being call now, schedule a consult, whatever it is. And then throughout your homepage, list that call to action multiple times. I mean, so many times that you feel like it's on there too many times.
Right.
Really, as you scroll down a website, each time you're trying to unpack an idea, there should be call to action, call to action, call to action. You can have a couple calls to action. That's okay. But then again, think about if I'm asking you to do something that doesn't make sense, then I'm requiring you to burn too many calories. So your call to action needs to be clear too.
I think one of the mistakes I see on people's websites is they have, if you scroll, they may have hyperlinks or buttons, but it's usually more hyperlinks than buttons. And they're clicking to all sorts of different places. So it's like you're giving me 10 bowling balls as I scroll down your homepage for places to click, and I'm getting lost. And I think it's a good practice, don't you agree, to have like one, maybe two calls, the same call to action down your homepage.
Yeah. You can say it a couple different ways, but if you can stick to one clear way to say the thing you want them to do, that call to action, be clear and say it multiple times. And in a kind of a big button that's got some nice, easy to read text. Don't make it in a link that's the same size as the rest of the fonts on your website. Yeah.
I think buttons we're so used now to touching buttons. Like that's very native. It's very common for people to click a button. So they're looking for that.
Yeah. I just heard somebody the other day say that 90% of web traffic and searches are now coming from mobile devices. Wow. I haven't read more to confirm that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, just a couple of years ago, it was 60%. So think about that too. The mobile experience of your website needs to have a really big, fat, clear button that my big, sausage fingers can hit. If you make that next call to action a tiny little link, it's hard to click when I'm on my phone. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And when you're scrolling to see it, like you keep seeing that, because it takes everything wide and squeezes it down and almost to a column. Yeah. So having it multiple times, they'll keep seeing it. I also think it's a good, I don't know that you plan to plug this, but I think it is a good, I think people should somehow get your checklist. I know you have a website checklist, and I think people need to make sure their websites are mobile responsive.
Yeah, that's one of the things for sure. If you want to connect with me, go to clarifymywebsite.com. Again, clarifymywebsite.com. And in that consultation or that initial meeting, we'll go through a checklist and see where you feel like your website's missing out, or maybe a better way to do that is send that checklist on before we meet, so you can kind of go through that on your own.
I think one of the, so let me, I didn't plan to ask you this, but somebody could hear that and say, oh, wow, like Curt could actually look at my website. How much do you charge for that?
To look at your website? Yeah. We can sit down and look at the website together, and I'd be happy to point out a couple things for kind of like a free, no obligation chat.
Right. So you'll help me for free to just look at my site and tell me what you see.
Yeah. Now, if we need to go in deeper than that, we can do multiple different things. We can obviously build websites. Right. We work with a lot of people who have tight budgets, though. So sometimes the actual physically building the website, I've got somebody who can do that, and we might just use them because they're a lot cheaper. Totally understand. Let me build your wireframe for you. Let me clarify your message. Build the wireframe, and then you can go have the employee or the friend or whoever it is actually build out the website. Things like Squarespace and Wix and all that stuff. They're great. They honestly kind of have a low ceiling once you start to grow as a company, you might kind of bump your head against the ceiling, but it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Let us build a wireframe for you.
And a wireframe, just to clarify, is what?
A wireframe is essentially kind of I always kind of refer to it as like a back of a napkin sketch of how your website is going to lay out from top to bottom. It's more detailed and polished than a back of a napkin. We actually use software to create the wireframe. None of the colors and shapes are there, but or the decisions on font types and things like that. But we'll take your messaging, your clear calls to action, your value statements, your the next steps that people need to take. The information that the quick little sentence that establishes you as an authority, and we'll write that out, wireframe it, and then you can hand that off to whoever you want to hand it off to actually build the site. But really, that's the secret sauce. That's the most important thing, is your content. The design and colors and fonts and all that stuff just enhances it. It absolutely adds to the experience for sure. But if you're on a budget and you need just a wireframe, we can build you out a wireframe. Our wireframe process is $1,500. That includes the session where we help you clarify your message.
I love that. And if they want to just get started before even wireframing, that they can go to Clarify My Website, schedule a call with you, and you'll kind of help them uncover what needs to happen, what needs to change, and then they can make a decision from there.
Yeah, clarifymywebsite.com. And here's the really cool thing about understanding your story is it doesn't just stop at your website. If you really think about it, it can go into any other marketing piece you have. A sales letter, a rack card, a trifold brochure, a presentation, a keynote, anything that you're doing. If you can clarify your message and understand how I'm bringing my product into my customer's story, that's really powerful. That can go into email campaigns, anything. But we work specifically in websites, but we're also, now that being a certified StoryBrand guide, are helping companies clarify their messaging across the board.
I love it. So good, Curt. Like, this is so important because people's website, you say this all the time, but people's website is like the home base. It is like the main thing that everything points back to. And I think to get that website right is critical for people. So
we liken it to kind of the analogy of a hub of a wheel. So if you think about like a wheel on a wagon, you got the hub, the spoke, where all the spokes are relying on that hub to hold up the wheel, right? So the hub of your wheel is your website. When I look at your trifold brochure, or I get a sales letter in the mail that we can help you create, and at the bottom of that sales letter, there's a URL to your website, right? The first thing I'm going to do is pick up the phone and call you. No, I'm going to go to your website. It's 2018. Everybody's looking for your website. And if they go to your website and that message that you've done such a good job to clarify, and then they land on your website and the message kind of drops off. That's a big fail, and I would, we talk to people all the time who work with SEO companies that get clicks or get impressions. The report says from the SEO company that there's been 200 new impressions, but we're not getting any sales. Impressions don't matter. Conversions matter. And conversions come through a clearly understood message and words that sell. Really, that's what it comes down to. Words are the things that sell. Think about Amazon. When we've all bought things on Amazon, the Amazon website's really not that beautiful to look at, right? So many businesses get so caught up in the look and feel of their website, and they check the box of great website because it looks cool. Well, Amazon, really the value that they provide is an easy to understand process. And when I'm trying to check out with this product that I want to buy, I can read reviews and I can understand what it is. And it's all words. So don't forget the words. The words are the things that sell.
If I had to end this episode like the way we started, I'd say it all comes down to clarity. Like, it all comes down to clarity. And so I think to wrap up episode 4, I'd say, you guys need to go to clarifymywebsite.com to connect with Curt and Andy to learn more about like what you guys need to do to be getting more ROI from your websites. Curt, another great episode. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for your wisdom. I look forward to seeing you in episode 5.
Thanks, Chris.